Hello and welcome to Chaos Chris TV. My name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and we got two members of the band Nectarous, and we got Elijah, the bass player, and Brody, the guitar player. How are you guys doing?
Oh, pretty good. Good. How are you?
I'm great. Now, I got to tell you guys, until your publicist reached out to me about setting up an interview with you guys, I'd never heard of the band. So, in preparation for today's interview, I went and checked out a couple of videos, and to me, you guys kind of seem like this is what I wrote down. This is my first reaction. A blues-based hippie rock band from a 1960s, 1970s jam band. Would you say that's a fair description, or how would you describe your sound?
That's pretty accurate.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so, how long has the band been around?
About 4 years. We kind of started during the pandemic, and we started like gigging like 2021 once like everything started reopening all the venues. So about 4 years now.
And so, did you guys know each other prior to forming this band, or did you play together previously?
Me and my singer Mitchell, we went to high school together in Somerset, Wisconsin. Otherwise, I met Elijah through like a group on Facebook, and
Nope, I didn't know any of these guys.
yeah, our drummer, I found him through some like website musician finder sort of thing.
So Elijah, do you guys all live kind of in the same general area? And talk about
Yeah,
hooking up on Facebook and during the pandemic and that, because a lot of bands did that.
yeah. I played bass for many years, and I like record bands and stuff. So I was kind of just like looking around, always for like people to work with and stuff, and like stuff that kind of comes across my radar. And I saw Brody post on a musician group. I was just already in this musician group, like a Twin Cities group. Just a demo of one of the songs, and it really got me. Like I was just like, oh, this is great. Like just straight
So,
back to the roots of what I was into originally, and so yeah.
and so I
Yeah,
imagine, when you guys
they
formed, like you said, during the pandemic or
yeah,
at the height of it, and so for all that time, I imagine like a lot of bands during that time, you had a lot of time to kind of write and get creative. But since then, have you had a chance to play out live? I was curious, and what's that been like?
yeah. We play like our local scene here, and we toured a couple times, just kind of like down south, still kind of in the Midwest, but like the furthest south we went to was Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah, yeah.
The furthest, yeah. So we've been to the south, and now we're planning a tour down south, coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah,
So
in like 3 weeks we'll be out. Like I don't know, go as far as like Texas and New Orleans. Kind of do a whole loop, but then come back
Oh,
up towards St. Paul.
and of course, it's always fun to play, your local area in your hometown. But what's it been like for you guys to get, outside of your home area and go to those other places?
Oh, it's pretty cool. Like some cities, like they love you. Some cities, like they don't.
it's always like an experience. I just try to take it like that, and like there's always fun things that happen. I mean, you just try to like balance that with the stuff that's like there's always a lot of just it's tour life stuff. Like
Yeah, whether it's good or bad, you always get a good story out
yeah,
of it.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
no, I
yeah,
mean
yeah.
people are generally like really enthusiastic about out of town bands, so just that in and of itself leads to a lot of great interactions, I think.
And I imagine Brody, like you said, you have these experiences on the road, which you hope will lead to maybe writing a song or from one of those experiences.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
If
Yeah,
Michael's going to join us, I think. So let's get him on here.
hell yeah.
Um, okay. Hello, Michael. How you doing? Can you hear us, Michael?
It's coming through the ether.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Oh, hi,
Sorry.
Mike. So welcome to the show. My name is Jason, and we're just getting started, so you haven't missed much. So, have you been with the band since it was first formed? And why don't you tell us how you kind of got involved with the band initially?
Yeah, not right away. I think this kind of transcended from Brody, our guitarist, and kind of formed into Nectarous as it is today. I think it started out him and Ryan, the drummer, and then I got a text from Brody one day asking me to come out and maybe jam along with them, and so did that in Ryan's basement, and it was awesome. It was a super fun experience, and yeah, I was with the guys since then.
And you're a singer, right, Michael?
Yes, sir. And
And
Mitchell, sorry.
oh, Mitchell, excuse me. Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so Mitchell, let's talk about some of your influences, and I was curious because I was telling your bandmates, to me, when my first impression of the band is this what I wrote: blues-based hippie rock band from a 1960s, 1970s jam band.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
that's kind of a description I came up with because just watching the videos, it seems like you guys are just one of those bands that could jam out to anything, you know?
Yeah, I
definitely.
feel like that's kind of the goal, without us stating it ever to each other. But
Yeah, we could always fill out a set
yeah,
if we
yeah.
had to.
Yeah, and with that in being said, I got to ask: when you guys write, I was curious. Do you kind of do it the old school way, where it starts the guitar riff or starts with the music, or have you ever jammed a song out from its inception, just out of a jam?
Yeah, I think like once or twice we did that with
We've
where we
kind
wrote a
of
song from the ground up, but we
Yeah, we've
usually
probably approached it from always. Like
yeah, yeah.
someone brings a full song, lyrics and instrumental, or maybe it's just the riff, or sometimes you just dick around and you write a whole song in like 30 minutes from nothing out of nowhere.
And so,
So
Mitch, being the front man, the lead singer, the guy that everybody's looking at when the band's up on stage, um, I was curious how, as far as you guys writing songs, and you're the front man, you're probably the guy that writes the lyrics. How inspired do you get from these guys when they're creating the music?
Oh, it's awesome. It's I myself, I've been singing for most of my life, and I was a choir kid because I forgot to fill out my band permission slip. So I just, ended up joining into choir, and so that's always been my sort of angle in music. It's been, lyrics and melody and singing and stuff. And so just being able to be, surrounded by these guys who I think are masters of their instrument and what they do and what they're trying to do
Yeah,
and to play
yeah.
music. It's amazing. It's awesome. It's
And
very
Elijah,
inspiring.
you're the bass player, so I was curious, how important is it for you to be locked in with the drummer and have that tight rhythm sound?
I feel like that's pretty important. Like that, Ryan and I always are locked in at various moments like that. Yeah, from like writing too, it's just I'm always like trying to do more melodic stuff though too. So it's kind of always striking a balance between like whether I'm going to play stuff that's more supported, like down low and creating a groove, or if I'm going to be doing something that's more up higher. So I'm kind of playing both fields a little bit.
Interesting. Okay.
More so than maybe than usual, especially with like blues rock kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
Hey, Elijah, you ever been told you look a little something like John Bonham?
Not specifically John Bonham's. Yeah,
I can see
yeah,
it. I guess
yeah.
you got the beard and the
Yeah, yeah.
haircut.
You're keeping that
Like
rhythm
role
part going.
reversal. Ryan's super into John Bonham, so
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of fun. So, you guys are signed with Payment, correct?
Oh no, as of right now, we're just partnering up for like a marketing campaign, and we'll kind of just see what the future holds for us from here.
Because I got to tell you, I hope it works out for you guys with them because they got a great little roster of artists. But I've always loved about the label is the fact that it was started up by Tim King, the bass player from Soil. So you'd think initially a guy that's like in a metal band like that, pretty hardcore metal band, that he'd sign nothing but metal. But they've got a little bit of every type of artist out there, and I think Nectarous is a great band that they could really add to that roster because you're really kind of I can't think of another band that sounds like you guys on the roster, and I think it would just really open the door. People kind of really love this kind of rootsy kind of 1970s rock. That's what I hear when I listen to this.
I agree with that. I feel like we got a familiar sound, but like at the same time, you just don't quite hear what we got on the radio anymore.
Mm-hmm. And it's unique because I listened to it and it doesn't necessarily sound like you guys reinvented the wheel, but a lot of times these days bands will be like, we're going to forge ahead, we're going to forge a new sound, and yet you guys sound like what came before, but at the same time, I think it's what's been missing, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. I think it's coming back with bands like Greta Van Fleet and Dirty Honey. I think it's here to stay, and like we're here to prove that. I'm
And,
glad you recognize that too.
yeah, and Nectarous too. That's an interesting name. I always love to hear because I know that's one of the hardest things is coming up with the name. How did you guys come up with that?
Actually, that one was
Brody.
me. I looked up the word sweet and a thesaurus, and then Nectarous popped up, and it's like, well, you need a band name that's sweet, so that's perfect. I've never heard the word before. It
Mhm.
stuck with me, and I feel like, rock and roll's got that sugary, sweet feel. So it just seemed perfect.
And sugarcoat, I'm kind of guessing that that's to kind of go along the same kind of lines. I mean, talk about the song, and because it's the video too is like something I think you would have seen on MTV back in the day, and how people been responding to the song and the video.
Oh, we just officially released the video like 3 days ago, and I think people seem to
Yeah,
like it.
yeah, it's very fresh. Yeah,
It's yeah, Elijah here edited all that together,
yeah,
and it was kind of a DIY project. We between like us and like other people who are around us at a local gig and like our girlfriends and whatnot, they all helped us film. And the song itself, I think if you like dig into it, if like you're more of a musical nerd, you'll discover it's not exactly a straightforward 4/4 thing. It's
Yeah,
funky, but like you'll add like a fifth beat here and there just to throw off the time signature. You got half bars, a chorus that'll start on like the
it's
three
got
of a
a
measure.
little bit of funkiness to it too. You know, a little funky
Yeah,
groove.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got talk box harmonies, and lyrically, it's about like having like a sunny disposition or being like a cup half full person. Like, life sucks, but like,
yeah. You're
you
trying to grit your way through the stuff that's going bad, and
yeah, it's all good,
yeah.
man.
yeah. And so, what's your plan moving ahead, guys? I mean, do you think we'll see a full length? Do you think a EP will come out first?
Oh, actually, we did just release a full length album last month.
Yeah, we'll probably promote that more heavily, and because yeah, that's still very fresh. We just kind of released that,
Yeah,
got that out there.
yeah, that was released independently, which is
Yeah,
which kind of prompted me to reach out to Pavement, and we're getting out
Maybe
there
it'll.
promoting.
Yeah.
yeah. Still trying to tour. I think once a year is kind of like our, at least as a benchmark, but maybe twice a year. Just trying to.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
just looking for this to take off if possible.
They say people have their whole life to write their first record. I was curious, since coming out of the pandemic or kind of performing during the pandemic, what was it like the very first time you guys played your very first show and you hit the stage? I mean, because that's like really living the dream. Okay, we've written these songs, we've been living with these songs. Now for the very first time, we get to hit the stage and kind of see how people respond to this.
What do you think, Mitchell?
I mean, the very, very first time we ever performed without really kind of, not at that point we hadn't released anything.
Was
It
that
was
the
weird,
Cadence
but it was,
show?
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it was
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cadence in St. Paul, Minnesota, and it was, yeah, like an 80-degree day. We were outside in this tiny little stage that wasn't even a stage at all. It was like a patio area that they cleared out for us, and but it was fun. I mean, I think we did a lot of covers at that show and just kind of got a feel for if people respond well to it. And yeah, everyone had a blast. And I mean, by far
Yeah,
not
so I
our
was
best
curious,
gig,
guys.
but
Is there much of a music scene in Minnesota?
yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think so.
Really a scene, not exactly for our sound, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good like really good punk scene here, and like a good metal scene, and all other kinds of pockets. And yeah, we're trying to find our kind of crew of people, and there's definitely like 4 or 5.
Would you consider your guys like rock? And the reason I'm asking is I'd imagine too. Another thing, as great as the band is, you must have trouble kind of you know finding other bands to do shows with because
A little bit sometimes, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
We're very just kind of like we're always looking at the bands that we admire way in the past, and I think a lot of people are more into stuff that was more recent, and so we're a little bit like outliers of like, oh, we're going way to the past and looking
yeah.
back at the 60s and 70s, even the 80s and stuff. It just like there's a lot more people that are more into a little more contemporary stuff, but that's just I don't know. We just wanted to try to go that route.
And of course that's because a lot of people are just discovering the band. But I'd imagine too that based on the songs I heard, I also heard another one, Whiskey Hustling Woman.
Yeah,
Good one.
And that's another fun tune. But I'm just hearing those two songs so far. I would say I think this is a band that's going to be pretty hard to pigeonhole. Besides saying a great kind of rootsy rock band, but I think that you guys are going to be one of those bands that can do a little bit of everything. Have different sounds on your album.
Oh, definitely.
Appreciate that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like, you look at a band like Tesla, okay? There are people who tell you they're a metal band and people tell you they're a bluesy rock band. But again, kind of like what you guys do, they do a little bit of everything. And again, talking about Tesla, their biggest hit was, a love song, a ballad. So you just never know
Yeah,
that song you're going to have a hit with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah. And Mitchell, I don't really know you. I'm just meeting you for the first time, but you seem kind of really kind of mellow and laid back. So I was curious, when you're up on stage and you're playing the role of the frontman, the lead singer, you really have to kind of get yourself, in the mood, if you will, before you hit the stage.
I mean, yeah, there's always, not always, there's usually some liquid courage that's involved. But I come from a stage background growing up. I was in plays and stuff. And like you said, it's exactly, you just kind of put yourself into that role and then, get amped up. And you always want to obviously go out and try to look like you're enjoying yourself if you're not, but enjoy
Yeah.
yourself.
And I
surrounded
hear a
by
lot of
friends.
guys that a lot of musicians, especially singers, say that they got their formal training, singing or playing in the choir, and that's kind of interesting because a church, you get up on stage, you sing in the choir. It's a different kind of audience, but I could see how that would be great training for what you do.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean it's good. I don't know if it's good, but no, I'm just kidding. It's yeah, it's fun to do. And yeah, you just kind of get out there and give it your best, I guess.
Yeah, and Brody, let me ask you. I was checking out the video, and I like your guitar playing, the way you move around on stage, in the videos and stuff. Um, how old were you when you knew the guitar was what you wanted to do?
Oh, I was it was like summer 2010. I must have been like 12. My dad was a guitarist, and like he was always trying to get me to like do something on my free time. And then eventually he just like threw it at me. And I always loved music because I just grew
Mhm.
up with my parents always playing stuff. And then, one day it just clicks. And like, I grew up when like Guitar Hero and like Rock Band were like becoming like the thing. And like, I just remember like the rock star thing was just kind of becoming a huge all of a sudden. And then, I was part of that. And then like, I picked up the guitar and I was like the one guy in my school who was actually like trying to do something and like
Yeah, me
get
too.
out there. Grew up in a small town, Wisconsin, with Mitchell, and there's not a lot of people to form a band with when you're in the middle of nowhere. But like 10 some years on, I'm out here, man, rocking, and I'm glad to say I persisted.
Yeah. Who were your guitar heroes, Brody? I mean, as far as growing up, the guys that influenced you.
Oh, Slash and Jimmy Page are probably number one for me. Lately, there's this guy, Jim McCarty, of this band called Cactus from the early '70s. I've been really into that, but yeah, it's mainly a bunch of older guys.
Carmine Apiece, yeah, man, what a cool
Yeah.
cat on the drums. I mean, you talk about a great rhythm, man. I mean, I interviewed him, and he was actually sharing with me that he influenced John Bonham, mentioning John
Oh,
Bonham.
I've heard that. I think I can hear it now that I'm actually like discovering his music.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Carmine Apiece. I mean, what a great drummer. I mean, I know he's one of those drummers that I really kind of put up there. I mean, he's a real showman. He just can do it all. Yeah,
Yeah, too bad he didn't like replace Bonham and Zeppelin. That could
yeah,
have been something.
yeah. So what else do you guys have planned? I guess how can people, if they want to get the album, let's start there. What's the best way to do that? Can they get it physically or digitally?
We're working on printing some physicals for our tour. I think that's kind of our plan right now. And then we do have everything's digital right now. So yeah, any streaming platform you can find us on.
Yeah, it's all free on YouTube and whatever, so it's accessible to everyone as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, what do you guys think of? Let's talk a little bit too about the power of the internet. I mean, it must kind of be a great feeling. You see that parts of the world that you never stepped foot in, and you find out people are listening to your music.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, to see the stats of where stuff is
Wasn't it like
cropping up.
Amsterdam? There was like a big following or
Yeah,
something.
I mean, a part of that I think was like Ryan's connection there. It's just funny. Like you'll spend some time in an area, and then because you're there, and you leave some stickers and you leave some things around, people sort of spreads, and you can kind of
Yeah.
see that. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely it's fun to see that stuff.
And so, Mitchell, let me ask you, like I found the video for Sugarcoat, I really love that. And you were explaining that the video is kind of a do-it-yourself kind of project. You guys put work on it together. Where was that shot? Because again, very professional looking. I mean, um, I just love the video. I mean, I think people watch that, and besides the song and everything being so great, I think you just really check out the band, what the band's doing throughout the video. You guys kind of hanging out, performing a little bit, and it's just such a fun vibe.
Yeah, that was at Acadia in Minneapolis. It was Minneapolis, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was actually pretty recently. At one of our last gigs, we just kind of decided that, we were all together and we needed to make a video because we cared about the song, and so we yeah just kind of pieced that together that night and had a great gig that night and played with some awesome bands. And it was a really good time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can't wait to see where this band goes next. I think the best compliment I can give you guys is that I've only heard the two songs I mentioned, and yet I guess talk a little more about Sugarcoat because that's the I guess current single. But I watched the video and I listened to the song and that's all I've pretty much heard, like I said. But it's like that song was so good, it leaves me wanting some more. I can't wait to hear what the follow up song is going to be. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
It's great to hear. That's great to hear.
Yeah, we
And,
definitely got ideas in the pipeline.
yeah, yeah. And final question for the day, guys. When I was curious, as far as recording, when you record, do you typically like record a song at a time? Are you all in the same room together, or does everybody have their own home studio?
Yeah, so I guess I can speak on that mostly because
Yeah,
I'm the one who kind of records or has recorded all our stuff, and we have a studio that we typically like to go to that, yeah, we can set up all live and track everything, keep everything, but we'll usually replace stuff as needed. But we try to like that.
yeah,
Was that vocal in Sugarcoat was the live vocal, I
Yeah.
think. So
Yep.
that's pretty rare for us, but had the vocal track, but we try to track everything live and then just kind of go from there. And it can be tough, and I do some vocals in the band too to get the vibe right. It's really like you have to be really dialed in, and having that right on at the time when we're doing live tracking doesn't usually always happen, but sometimes we'll get lucky, we'll get the vocal track. But usually it's the drums and the bass we'll try to get, it's pretty standard, and then go and then just add stuff from there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Elijah,
we're
how
all
how
we're all together. We're not really doing anything remote too
yeah,
often. So yeah.
how important is the background vocals? And I ask that because you look at a band like Van Halen, talking about Michael Anthony, his background vocals. I mean, that was a big part of that band's sound.
Yeah.
It's definitely important because I feel like
Brody's kind of encouraged me to sort of do more of the stuff that the higher falsetto kind of with the vibrato, and so like, so he was always bringing stuff like, you got to keep doing that, and
yeah, I'm a
that's super
crazy man.
encouraging. That
And,
I can be timid sometimes with that, like I don't know if this is fitting right, and so yeah, he's super helpful, just making me feel more encouraged.
and Mitchell, having a guy like Elijah do those background vocals when you're up on stage, does that help you do what you do vocally?
Absolutely. I can take a few second break at a time when he jumps in. No, yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to have. And, obviously coming from choir background, love singing with people and, yeah, just being able to experiment with, like you said, harmonies and the great bands that have done it and what they've been able to do musically with it is an awesome experience, especially live. It's not super common, I feel like, to have harmonies in live
Yeah,
music, at
yeah.
least for the scene that we're in and the bands we're playing with.
Yeah, that's why I loved a lot of bands from the 1960s and 70s. Bands like the Eagles, and we talked about Van Halen, or those bands were, even the Beatles. They had more than one guy that could sing, and I dug that because you put on the record, you wouldn't hear the same voice all the time, and so it's even if you just have a background vocals, the other guys in the band doing that, or a band like Steely Dan, even or the Doobie Brothers, you hear those other guys kind of doing their vocal thing, and I think it makes the song that much better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And,
Yeah.
and so Mitchell, I asked other guys about their influences. Who were some of your influences as far as singers when you were growing up?
It's a long list. I mean, the obvious one is Robert Plant, just out of sheer power and that
Yeah,
chest voice that he had. And I've always looked to him as an influence. Um, you know, I have a lot of country influences,
oh,
surprisingly. So that kind of like rich voice and smooth, which is sort of a contrast, Robert Plant and
yeah.
his rock
Oh no,
voice.
but I mean, you could be influenced by all kinds of things, and even me, I love everything from hard rock and the Eagles, Tom Petty, Whitesnake, Deep Purple. Just there's a little bit of influence in all that, and And I just think it's I think the more influenced you are, the better the music, because I mean, it makes sense that like you would sound like your influences, but that's what's interesting thing about this band is, again, I've only heard the two songs, but kind of you do have that rootsy kind of rock sound, like we said, maybe from 1960s or 70s, but yet at the same time, I don't hear an obvious thing where somebody say, oh, they're the next Aerosmith. It's not necessarily that. It's just you got your own unique sound, and it's unique that I don't think you can really pigeonhole this band. I don't really think you can say this is their sound, and part of that is probably because you're still kind of creating your sound.
Definitely. I think
100%.
there's
Yeah.
some more solidifying that we want to do, and we can fall into our roots more. But I think that as we do that, we're just going to be able to expand musically and kind of, like you said, not pigeonhole ourselves or get caught up in sounding too much like our influences. And obviously music is 12 notes, and it's figuring out how to manipulate those into the sound that's maybe never came before, or the way that you want it to sound. And so, no, I think I don't know, I'm excited.
Well, I had a great time meeting you guys today and chatting with you. I'm going to have this probably go up later in the week. I will let your publicist know, and feel free to share it. And when you guys have another song to promote or you're ready to release something, let's do this again. I'd love to do whatever I can to spread the word about this band, because again, I'm so hooked on that song. Sugarcoat is just one song, but I think anybody who checks that out, it's very infectious. You can't help but sing along with it.
So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye.
Bye, man.